offering incriminating information on their political opponent. Those two things don't necessarily seem inconsistent.
So if there was no collusion, it wasn't for lack of trying.
Right, exactly. I mean, just because you want to do something illegal and they may not have the information, although we don't really know what happened at that meeting yet, but I think it's just a flat-out inconsistency. Merriam-Webster defines collusion as secret agreement or cooperation, especially for an illegal and deceitful purpose. And interestingly, the example the dictionary uses is in collusion with the enemy. And I think that the reason this Donald Jr. story exploded so much is not only that the Trump people's explanation of that meeting changed about a half dozen times. We keep adding people to the meeting and the reporting. It'll be at Madison Square Garden before we know it.
Exactly.
He probably is by now. But it's not just that, but it's the ease with which Donald Jr. said, I love it. I'm ready to do this. My quote of the day is from my Washington Post colleague and anti-Trump conservative Mike Gerson. Mike wrote, a faith that makes losing a sin will make cheating a sacrament. That's worthy of Bartlett's.
Well, you mentioned the growing roster of people at this meeting, and the latest shoe to drop comes in reports out today that a former Soviet counterintelligence official who now lobbies for Russia attended the meeting. It, of course, had Donald Trump Jr., the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Paul Manafort, who was then campaign chairman. This lobbyist, Rinat Akhmetshin, told the Associated Press that he was at the meeting, but downplayed its significance. And now there are reports of other Russians or their advocates also being in the room. How important is this development, and how does it fit into the big picture of what we've learned this week, Eliana?
Look, I think the absolute worst part of this situation for the White House is that they've showed essentially how to reverse engineer crisis management advice in that they were not forthcoming initially about what happened in this meeting. The New York Times reported that they crafted Donald Trump Jr.'s initial response when he said this was a meeting simply between the four people talking about adoption. And so that means there's no reason for the public to have any faith that they're being honest and transparent in what they're telling us now, which means that it's all up to reporters to ferret out information about what really happened in this meeting, and that the White House's word has become utterly meaningless. Each development that comes out of the press is incredibly significant.
EJ, it feels like for months we've been hearing from defenders of the president, there's smoke but no fire. Having a former KGB agent in the meeting sounds like fire.
It sure does to me. And, you know, it's really remarkable. A conservative writer said a couple of weeks ago that the Trump administration is afflicted with Russian amnesia. The one set of meetings everybody seems to forget are any meetings they've had with Russians. And again, they've had to change their disclosure forms. They've had to say that things they said in the past were untrue. And that's what feeds the suspicion if they are not guilty of something, whether legal or simply collusion with an enemy, they sure don't act like innocents, and they cannot get their story straight. This is, as somebody wrote, the gang that can't collude straight.
As far as we know, the only person at that meeting who's currently at the White House is Jared Kushner, who's now a senior advisor to the president. And this morning in Congress, House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi called for Kushner to lose his security clearance. She also said Democrats are going to force Republicans, or try to force them, to take votes on creating an independent commission to investigate Russian involvement in the elections. Let's listen.
Will expose House Republicans in action for their willful, shameful enabling. They have become enablers of the violation of our Constitution, the attack on the integrity of our elections, the security of our country.
EJ, do you think this is a useful strategy for Democrats? Can they actually accomplish anything here?
Whether they accomplish something or not, I think they're going to underscore something that should be really disturbing to people, and I think really is disturbing to anti-Trump conservatives and not just Democrats, which is that the Republican leadership has been absolutely cowardly in confronting Trump. Somebody could write a book on what conservatives would say all of these scandals and all of these questions about Trump. And I think what Pelosi is trying to do is put them on the line and say, if you're not willing to vote for an independent investigation, you're just going to underscore for voters the fact that you are utterly unwilling to confront Trump.
I don't entirely agree with that. There are about 10 investigations currently going on right now, and independent special counsel investigating what exactly happened. I personally have faith that ultimately we're going to find out what happened in these meetings. I'm not sure what exactly you would want Paul Ryan or Mitch McConnell to do. Like, are they supposed to be marching to the White House?
Condemn meeting with the Russians and trying to get negative information and say, I would never do that. That's what I would want to do.
I think, Paul Ryan pretty full-throatedly during the campaign, condemned Trump and distanced the rest of his party from Trump. It's pretty clear to me that Republicans in Congress are put in a difficult position, and they don't like what they see happening.
We'll have to leave it there. Eliana Johnson and EJ Dion, thanks to both of you.
Thank you.
Stay with us here on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Another case of measles reported in the state means the outbreak continues. We'll get a report.
2 hours commercial free.
KDWB. I wanna follow where she goes. I think about her and she knows it. I wanna let it take control. Cause every time that she gets closer, she pulls me in enough to keep me guessing. And maybe I should stop confessing, yeah. Oh, I've been shaking, I love it when you go crazy. You take all my inhibitions, baby, there's nothing holding me back. You take me places that tear up my reputation, manipulate my decisions, baby, there's nothing holding me back. There's nothing holding me back. There's nothing holding me back. She says that she's never afraid. Just picture everybody naked. She really doesn't like to wait. Not really into hesitation. Pulls me in enough to keep me guessing. Oh, maybe I should stop confessing. Yeah. Oh, I've been shaking, I love it when you go crazy. You take all my inhibitions, baby, there's nothing holding me back. You take me places that tear up my reputation, manipulate my decisions, baby, there's nothing holding me back. There's nothing holding me back. Last time I think we took it way too far. I know we'd be alright. I know we would be alright if you were by my side. When we stumbled in the dark, I know we'd be alright. I know we would be alright. 'Cause if we last time I think we took it way too far. I know we'd be alright. I know we would be alright if you were by my side. We stumbled in the dark, I know we'd be alright. We would be alright. Oh, I've been shaking, I love it when you go crazy. You take all my inhibitions, baby, there's nothing holding me back. You take me places that tear up my reputation, manipulate my decisions, baby, there's nothing holding me back. There's nothing holding me back. I feel so safe when you're with me, baby, baby, there's nothing holding me back.
101.3 KDWB.
Number one for new music.
For a concha. I think I got it right this time. Not a conch shell, a concha. Here's your song. It's No Promises. Cheat Codes and Demi Lovato.
Like a knife and I feel it deep in my bones. Thinking I have a little deep in order. You wanna know? I just wanna dive in the water with you, baby. We can't see the bottom. It's so easy to fall for each other. I'm just hoping we catch one another.
Just be careful, na na. Love ain't simple, na na. Promise me no promises. Oh na na. Just be careful, na na. Love ain't simple, na na. Promise me no promises.
Think about you and I feel it. Deep in my heart. Maybe we just aim it to be something. Maybe we are. Ooh, I just wanna dive in the water with you, baby. We can't see the bottom. It's so easy to fall for each other. I'm just hoping we catch one another.
Just be careful, la la. Love is simple, la la. Promise me no promises. Oh la la. Just be careful, la la. Love is simple, la la. Promise me no promises. Wanna dive in the water, but baby we can't see the bottom. I just wanna dive in with you. I just wanna lie here with you. Just be careful, love is simple. Promise me no promises. Just be careful, love is simple. Promise me no promises. Promise me no promises.
No promises. Chico, Demi Lovato, 101.3. KDWB, tomorrow is a big day. It's going to be nice out, at least until about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And then it turns to crap. But before it turns to crap, you should really come see me out on Big Island, Lake Minnetonka, from noon to 2. Yeah, well before it turns to crap. I'm not going to say turns to crap again, but you got to come out. We're going to have Bite Squad Frisbees to give out if you're hanging out. Big Island, Lake Minnetonka, noon to 2. Thanks to Metro Lakes Marina and Rental. We'll see you out there with KDWB.
This report is brought to you by JCPenney.
Pretty clear now.
Especially this one evening.
Truth is what you should have. When Quee was in office in the early 1980s, that meant a run of awful budget circumstances that confined his tenure to a single term. Quee's plaque winds from his days as a Navy pilot in World War II, to his time on the family dairy farm, to his 2 decades in Congress, through his governorship, and his prison ministry work after leaving office.
How does that strike you?
That sounds pretty good.
I'd vote for that guy.
Covering politics, I'm Brian Baxt at the Capitol.
Online now at nprnews.org, you can see former Governor Pawlenty's and former Governor Ventura's portraits and the plaques as well next to those paintings. nprnews.org.
This sound comes from the past. A trained ear would be able to tell you it's coming from the IBM Model F keyboard. It's definitely the sound of the 1980s office. Like if your boss was near and they could hear you typing away, they would know you were being productive. Computer collectors who have a lot of feelings about the Model F keyboard. I think that it's the best keyboard ever. ever because it has a delicate yet incredibly tactile response that makes typing a pure pleasure. It's got this sound. You've got two huge pieces of steel. You have some flippers slapping and resonating between two metal sandwich layers inside. It's kind of a musical interaction when you're typing.
IBM stopped making the Model F in the mid-90s, so they're hard to find. You have to troll thrift shops or eBay, and if you happen to find one, it's not very easy to get.